Hello, I'm Kate Tojeiro. I'm an executive coach, and I'm really, really delighted that I'm here having a conversation with Neil Mullarkey. I'm sure many of you know Neil Mullarkey. He's a much-loved actor, writer, comedian, perhaps most known for co-founding the Comedy Store Players with Mike Myers, known for his improv. But also, Neil works in the corporate sector and has worked with most of the big companies across the globe, talking to leaders about presentation, about authenticity, about finding their center and their strength. And I thought it'd be nice to have a conversation with Neil, because I'm an executive coach. I work with leaders, again, big businesses across the world. And I've discovered from conversations and sessions over the last few weeks that a number are utterly shattered, understandably, because of their pressures they're under commercially and economically. But there seems to be an added level to that, which is about them as human beings and being utterly shattered from being on Zoom all day and thinking about their hair and what they're wearing and what's behind them and what's underneath them that nobody can see, which just seems to me to be adding yet another layer of something that perhaps could be managed better. And I thought, who better to talk to than someone that's all about presentation and managing that and thinking on your feet so that your natural leadership can come through brilliantly, whether you're a leader or whether you're not.
Yes, hello. It's exhausting, isn't it? Yes. This video conferencing is exhausting. I've been trying to find out the neuroscience of it, if there's anything there. And turns out, I think we're all the time looking at people trying to work out what's really going on. But because of the limited information we're having to work hard saying, please give me more data, and there isn't enough data there. We're also, it's not just us watching television watching us. We're being looked at straight down the line all the time. And one of the early things, because I've been looking at this for about a month or so, thinking, how can we replicate real life? And it turns out you've got to say, no, this isn't the same as real life. This isn't a poor substitute. This is something different. And embrace the possibilities. And it maybe you start to use the chat function and you send stuff ahead of time, or you think of something in the meeting and you can write it down, or somebody's not that keen on being looked at, so they might turn off their camera. And lots of research is saying to us, for certain kinds of work, especially when there's an emotional input, and much of our work does require an emotional input, turn off the camera just for a moment. Maybe you start off chatting, how's everything? And that's an essential part. Start your meeting 10 minutes early. Have the chat. How are you? What's going on with your family, your friends? Who's poorly, not poorly? What have you dressed up as this week? Perhaps. Who have you checked in with? Then get down to the task. But sometimes say switch off video, just go audio, so you can actually look away, write stuff down, and not feel on all the time, because those of us who perform know how tiring being on is. And if you don't have that thing of being on a train or heading off somewhere in a car to delineate work versus home, I think there's a bit of a decompression missing for us, isn't there?
Absolutely. No, I agree. As you say, it's full on all the time. And I think what was really interesting when we had a conversation a few days ago was when you talked there about, switching it off, don't be on all the time. That then when we just listen to audio, we perhaps listen more deeply because we're listening to someone's voice rather than watching, well, what book's that, or what we got going on there, or the picture goes fuzzy and then it doesn't work at all. And then we've just, it's so much harder. We're having to work so much harder in order to get the insight.
We're easily distracted. We get a lot of information from the voice. I've listened to webinars where I don't see the person at all for an hour, and it's been great because they've got a good voice. So they're using it. They're bringing in slides, but they're bringing stories and examples and varying the tone of their voice. And I'm sure that some people who have a very monotonous voice, you would not want to listen to them for too long. But mostly the people like that are people who are reading out a script. So it's better, I think, to turn off the video sometimes, to get yourself a chance to think, to look away. Also, in a group, you need to know whose turn is it now. There needs to be a facilitator. But also because of that delay of a second or so, you might think, why aren't they answering? Didn't they hear me? They're being rude? What's going on? So the rhythm of silences are being disrupted.
Yes.
And a friend of mine said the other day, we've got to observe a sort of different meter, as in poetry, because he was saying he was on with his family and they all talk at the same time. His twin sisters all talk at the same time. And you've got to somehow, sorry.
And then you don't hear anything.
You don't hear anything. And also, I'm half wondering, should I stop talking now because Kate's got something to say? You're half wondering, when's he going to finish? Give me a chance. So we're having to learn how to kind of say, I'm about to finish now.
Yes.
Or I don't want to finish now. Let me get to my point. And the more people you have, the more you need some sort of, it's your turn now, some sort of facilitation that says, you'll be on later, don't worry. Or the person doesn't want to be looked at, because people keep saying to me, I don't like being looked at all the time. Because in a room,
the thing is, at the moment we feel it's not even being looked at, because we're always looked at, but it's possibly even deeper than that. I feel as though it's being scrutinized because it feels so close. And so normally this feels a lot closer than normal, even though actually we're further away. It's so much further away, but because it's in our rooms, in our private spaces, in our homes, it sort of feels quite intrusive, and that will be much more for some than others.
And I also think that some of us put on our work face, work shoes, whatever, to put on a persona to protect ourselves, perhaps. Absolutely. To go to work. And now we're having to be that person at home as well. And that's hard to play the multiple roles. Somebody described it the other day as, when it's your birthday or it's wedding or something, and you've invited all the people from your different worlds.
Yeah.
And there's a bit of excitement, but there's a bit of stress, which is, what if that person I know at work talks to that person I know from my football? Or I've known her since school, but my goodness, I hope she doesn't talk to my boss or something.
Yeah,
or on the other hand, it's quite exciting if they do get on well. But if I'm being all those people in one go at home, I'm suddenly thinking, well, which one am I being now? Because it's quite hard to go from being a dad, a parent, a brother, a sister, a child, into being a work person. And I'm sure a lot of the people you coach, senior people, have downtime that they're missing now.
Yes, you're absolutely right.
And they're not able to have impromptu moments where somebody can talk to them. And certainly I'm talking about the microwave moments within organizations, which is, I just bump into you at the kitchen, making coffee or heating up my lunch. And I talk about social stuff, but then I also might kind of say this half-formed idea that I wouldn't want to present, wouldn't want to slide about it, but I kind of, what do you think? Well, that's interesting. Well, let's make some more of that. And so we're losing some of the social connection and possibly creative moments of serendipity that you don't get in formal meetings. So I'm trying to say to people, let's just have some fun together for an hour. Somebody called it, I did a session the other day, he called it a creativity wake up, where we just get to play for an hour. And even stuff like exploring where you are, because standing is good, but sitting like this all day is not good for our posture, for our creativity, for our breathing. People say that sitting is the new smoking, and sitting in front of a device all day is not good for you. So I'm getting people to get up and move around, go and find something in your house, put on a hat, bring an object. Somebody even the other day, Professor Clive Holtham, the wonderful Professor Clive Holtham from Cass Business School, who said, I've been railing for years actually, that we should be able to use virtual learning. And he said, turning the video off is great, using chat, using polls. But he also said, why not have on your desktop half a dozen or more photos that mean something to you? So if you want to share a screen, you suddenly say, this is a picture of my holiday. This is a picture of a tree. And it creates some kind of different oblique input that isn't just how we're going to deal with KPIs in Q4.
Yes. And of course, it makes it more human, doesn't it, when we do that? And this, first and foremost, is a very human tragedy. To your point a few moments ago about that downtime that undeniably is being lost, whether it's on the way from one building to another, in a car, on the train, or just walking to get a sandwich. Are there any tips or things that you'd think about for people to share? Because one thing I had a very interesting conversation with someone the other day, and she said, "Do you know what's really hard, Kate?" She said, "My dining room table, I can't remember if it was a dining room table or a kitchen table, but anyway, whichever table it was, she said it was the boardroom. She said it was the boardroom. And then at 5 o'clock, it was supper time with my kids and everything was going on. And it just went, whoop, literally from one to the other. And her head was still very much on, I don't think it was KPIs in Q4, but it might have been, and, strategy and what they're doing. They don't want to furlough anybody, but they might have to. But then all of a sudden it was, and now it's supper time with my family. And there was nothing. No.
Yeah. Well, this is why we create ritual and we have objects. So I'm just wondering, in her case, could she put a tablecloth on? Could she play some music? Could she actually go upstairs, put something different on? Because the great story I've heard is one guy who puts on a tie and a suit, gets in the car, drives around the block, comes back in, he's at work now, and then he does the opposite at the end of the day, just to kind of create that difference. And it's interesting that the dining table in the family is really important. And it's being corrupted now to being the boardroom. And it's great.
Or whatever.
Yeah. I mean, I work from home anyway, but actually what I administer from home, my work normally is at a workshop, keynote speech or coaching. So I'm used to shutting the door.
Yes.
So I'm lucky in that I have a space which is designed for work. And I don't know how we would do that if you don't have a separate space. And my first is create a separate space, but do anything you can. Clothes, music, tablecloth, open the window, something that says end of boardroom, in come the family.
Yeah.
I think it's vital that something physical does happen, some ritual that occasions the difference, the change of function from the office to the home.
Yeah, absolutely. That's really helpful. And I think those, just to recap the things you said about, as you say, creating rituals and, turning off the audio. But I think also, what's really useful about what you've said is not being afraid of looking after ourselves, but also, of course, but also finding those ways of having those moments in the kitchen. Which we can't have anymore, and we can't have a half discussion with our CEO like we used to be able to. Now it's can I call you at 11 o'clock? And well, what do you want to talk about? Well, I want to vaguely talk about something. You just think, no, I can't. I'm not going to do that. So how can we create that sort of randomness, if you like? And I think that's really useful.
Well, I'm just wondering whether the CEO needs to put time in her day just to ring people.
Yeah.
How are you? How's it going?
Which I think
5 minutes.
Yeah.
Just 5-10 minutes. No agenda. How are you feeling? And you can put it in a diary, but make sure not every hour is full of stuff.
Yes.
My exhortation always to people is to put 10 minutes in every hour, which doesn't have something in.
Yeah.
Or if you're a really busy person, put an hour in which has got some secret code. Project Rainbow, which is nothing, which is going for a walk, sitting outside or sitting away from others. The neuroscience of silence is powerful. If we don't have silence in our day, we're going to suffer. They found it with mice, I think.
Yes.
Even so-called relaxing music, like you have when you have, aromatherapy, isn't as relaxing as silence.
There's nothing. Yeah. Absolutely. Well, it's been so helpful and really interesting talking to you, with lots of nuggets there, I think. And as you say, it's letting people allowing themselves to do things really differently, which will, as you say, make such a huge difference. Oh, it's brilliant. Thank you so much. Sorry, you were going to say something.
I was going to say something, Sheb.
Flags.
Yeah, I should have done that. Well, I didn't know whether it was worth it, but somebody said this to me the other day, which is you can have the mindset, which is I'm trying to work from home, but my family, my friends keep getting in the way.
Yeah.
Or you can have the mindset of I'm looking after my family in a global pandemic.
Yes.
It's amazing I get any work done at all.
Yes, which is quite different and very, very freeing. And actually, as we talk about silence, but also gratefulness, actually the compassion comes in then, doesn't it? Just naturally.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Very good point. What a wonderful one to end on. Thank you so much. Really appreciate your help. That's wonderful. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Kate.